Rebirth of Gaia. A brief overview. Jesse Michael Newman built a career as a visual effects artist on award-winning commercials and films. In 2006, he began a personal project for his daughter, Emma. For as long as he can remember, Emma has had a deep connection to the environment. As she grew older and became enchanted with Greek mythology, he decided to show his support for her interests by depicting her as Gaia, the goddess of Earth. Rebirth of Gaia is an organic puzzle of diverse interwoven vignettes. Peaceful, vicious, conceptual, delicate, composed from earth, stars, vegetation, air, fire, and water. Part of this process entailed shooting photos, some of which became the principal characters, many of which, however, are more abstract, like dripping honey, flowing fabric, and refractions through ice. Before taking any photos, the process always begins with an idea, with sketches. Immersing himself in Greek mythology opened Newman's eyes to a seemingly endless supply of wonderfully vivid inspiration. He took notes and drew, some drawings specific to mythology, others merely forms or ideas he found intriguing. Once he had sketched out a rough layout and choreographed attributes within this layout, he began assembling the composition digitally. The scope of the project slowly evolved from a small side project for his daughter into an all-encompassing creative undertaking spanning 6 years. Newman had never considered that Rebirth of Gaia would be seen outside of his daughter's bedroom and was caught off guard when some close friends wanted to purchase a print. They encouraged him to show it publicly, which he did at the 2012 International Art Expo in New York. While attempting to push himself artistically through this project, Newman inadvertently created techniques that broke technological boundaries as well, including a process that allows him to work fluidly on a 300 million pixel canvas, roughly equivalent to the resolution of 150 high-definition televisions stacked side by side. The reason for seeking such high resolution is simple. There is much to convey in this hyper-real, delicately interwoven tapestry, layers upon layers of meaning derived from both the ancient narratives of Greece and Newman's own personal experience. Incredibly, because his process entails pre-composing entire scenes within scenes, the potential resolution goes well beyond this 150 HD TV analogy, since you could continue zooming into the image, finding details within the details. Let's begin. Rebirth of Gaia begins with its inception. Inception flows into the umbilical cord of a nebulaic embryo, representing the birth of the universe, and depicted by Newman's youngest daughter. Newman believes that the human mind is a prism whose shards of light stylize pure divinity into different mythologies. Pulling back, we find that the mind belongs to chaos, the vacant and infinite void from which the world, the gods and men arose, and represented by Newman's wife. The gaping yawn of chaos exhales, breathing life into a cosmic dandelion, out of which Gaia comes forth and bursts into birds. This also reflects the personal anecdote of how Newman and his daughter would blow dandelions at each other when she was a child. Holding the cosmic dandelion is Chaos's hand, which blends into the background terrain from which Gaia emerges. She is gazing into the distant heavens and longing for Uranos, the god of the sky. As she delicately wraps her arms around the moon, Demeter sits at the edge of the moon, pondering the cycles of life and death. Below, the beautiful Aphrodite emerges from the ocean, dripping with ocean foam. Atlas stands at the western edge of Gaia, holding the earth on his shoulders. Ancient Greeks conceived of the earth as a flat disk encircled by the river Oceanos. The view from the coastline is Newman's interpretation of how they may have imagined their world, with the sea pouring over the edge into the great pit of Tartaros. Tartaros is the abyss in the underworld far below Hades, a dungeon of torment and suffering. Newman took close-up photos of embers from a campfire and began transforming and manipulating them when, without intention, the face of Tartaros emerged, startling him. The face of Tartaros is a skull of embers, forehead, eyes, nose socket, and chin. The veins of his heart can be seen through his ripped open chest. Above the cosmic dandelion is a nebulaic chariot. Playing off the visual principle that objects in the distance are generally less defined, as the horses move closer to the viewer, they become more recognizable and elaborate. Newman believes that when the human mind encounters incomprehensible beauty or force, mankind builds places of worship and turns to mythology to help process and understand the unknown or the unknowable. To illustrate this, where the nebulaic horse meets the human mind, the Parthenon emerges. The conception of rebirth of Gaia includes a timeline of the formation of the world. From abstract, molten fissures, volcanoes emerge. These volcanoes slowly give way to mountains, and over time, the mountains transform into rolling green hills. Here, the landscape forms another incarnation of Gaia, whose tears are the sacred divinatory spring at Delphi, pouring into streams from which animals nourish themselves. When Apollo became inflamed with passion and began pursuing Daphne, Daphne was transformed into a tree to escape from him. Accepting her fate, Daphne reaches up to console Gaia, catching a tear dropping from the distant lake forming Gaia's eye. Representing humanity is Newman's youngest daughter, peeking around the tree and observing the gods with innocence, wonder, and heed. As we move to the top right, Eos, the goddess of dawn, bursts through the morning clouds, piercing the contours of darkness with her outstretched hand. Light pours onto Kronos, depicted by Newman himself. Kronos inhabits the area created by the inverted profiles of his parents, Gaia and Uranos. Dancing forest nymphs, called Curetes, bang their swords and shields together to drown out the infant cries of Zeus. Kronos is scouring the landscape for his newborn son, Zeus, attempting to escape the prophecy that he would be dethroned by his own son. The angelic boy hovering around Gaia is Eros, portrayed by Newman's son. Swift as the whirlwinds of the tempest, here he pauses, reaching out to touch the radiant Gaia. Eros was fundamental to the formation of the world, since as the primordial god of love, he was the uniting power that brought order and harmony to the conflicting elements of chaos. The dominant image of Gaia features Newman's daughter bursting from the ground. Representing all life on Earth, one of her legs is made of plants and the other of animals. When they merge, flowers burst forth, and dragonfly and butterfly wings adorn her torso. The diadem she is crowned with was created in honor of Gaia by an artist in ancient Greece. Each level of this image is fully imagined, from background forward, so there are many compositions hidden below the foreground elements. One such composition is flowing meditation. Newman felt it out of place for such a peaceful scene to have a volcanic backdrop, so he reimagined it with a more serene setting. Newman challenged himself to figure out what Gaia was pondering, and over time he concluded that it was the parent-child relationship. Her thoughts are made manifest in nature, with the countryside moving from herds in the background to small family groups to a parent and her child walking to the pivotal point where the parent must let go, represented here by a tree. On their own and without having yet learned intolerance from those different, these young children playfully intermingle. The closest animals, having walked furthest from the tree, develop an amplified sense of intuition. They are not eating the grass in front of them, but rather bowing to Gaia in reverence, returning to a greater sense of respect for Mother Earth, for Gaia. Limited edition prints of the 2012 Rebirth of Gaia artist proof are now available.